As you know, workers and families continue to struggle with an unprecedented cost of living crisis, and households remain under huge pressure, with massive energy bills, grocery bills and fuel prices increasing once again. But at the centre of all of this are sky-high housing costs. After 12 years of Fine Gael government, housing has gone from bad to worse, from crisis to emergency to social disaster. And so many people find themselves locked out of having an affordable home. On your watch, house prices are through the roof, rip-off rents at record levels. And there's been no help from your government for hard-pressed mortgage holders hit by a barrage of interest rate hikes. Last Thursday, the ECB announced its 10th interest rate hike since July of last year. These hikes add thousands of euros to annual mortgage repayments. Many homeowners now pay between €3,000 and €6,000 more a year. These are huge sums of money and a serious shock for homeowners trying to cope with soaring prices across the board. Last week, I spoke to one stressed-out father of two who told me that his mortgage repayments have increased from €800 a month to €1,200 a month. This individual, Minister, is from Cork, as it happens. And I could feel the pressure in his voice when he told me that his family have now started to cut back on essentials to try and keep up with the massive hikes. The situation for tens of thousands of homeowners who had their mortgages sold to vulture funds is arguably an even bigger nightmare. Many of these households have seen their interest rates rise to a whopping 10%. Of course, Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil supported the sale of these mortgages, and you promised at the time affected homeowners that they would be no worse off. But the truth is that they were thrown to the wolves. And now, as homeowners are crucified by these massive interest rate hikes, the banks enjoy bumper profits. Families make cutbacks to keep up, and the retail banks have clocked up eye-watering profits of €5 billion this year. And what has your government done to alleviate the suffering of fleeced homeowners? Well, nothing. Zilch, zip. You've played the part of spectators. You've watched on as more and more families are put under incredible pressure, and it is farcical for Fine Gael to claim to back home ownership. Under this government, it has become harder and harder to buy your own home or to meet mortgage repayments. Minister, it's not backing home ownership for a government to sit on its hands while homeowners are hit with interest rate hike after hike. That's the plain truth. Tá cabhair ag tastáil ag teaghlaí le bhórgáiste inis. Tá géir gá le gníomh inis chun cabhair sin a thuairt dóibh. Tá sé in am taco le mulle sin féin fuisih bhórgáiste dúnéirí tí atá ag stracailt. So the time for action is now, Minister. Tonight, Sinn Féin brings a motion before the Dáil calling for the introduction of a targeted, time-limited mortgage interest relief scheme for hard-pressed homeowners. It's a sensible proposal, it's reasonable, it's proportionate, and it can make a difference. So my question to you, Minister, is simple. Will Government back this motion this evening, and will you implement this proposal in next month's budget? Thank you.
Minister Coveney, please.
First of all, can I also welcome Barry and wish him well with his new role. Can I also welcome you back to Full Health Deputy? It's good to have you back. First of all, in relation to mortgage interest relief and the motion this evening, the Government won't be supporting the Sinn Féin motion this evening. The day to make a decision in relation to how we respond to mortgage holders that are under serious financial pressure is on budget day, and we will do that. The Minister for Finance and indeed the Minister for Social Protection have both made it clear that they're looking at ways in which we can support households that are under financial pressure because of 10 interest rate increases in a row. And there are many homes in the country that are under significant financial pressure as a result of that, and I recognise the sentiment behind what you're proposing. To provide mortgage interest relief for everybody would be enormously expensive, and so if the Government is going to do something in this space, Well, then we want it to be targeted, and we want it to get money to the families that need financial support the most. We'll have a budget in 3 weeks' time when the government responds to the overall issue. On the broader question of housing, I think it is important to say that we are seeing significant numbers of first-time buyers now buying their new homes. We've seen about 17,500 first-time buyers purchase homes over the last 12 months, out of 50,000 or so homes that have been for sale. That's a significant increase on anything we've seen over the last 10 years or so, or 15 years. We are seeing significant measures funded by government to support home ownership, whether it's the Help to Buy scheme, whether it's local authority home loans, whether it's the first-time shared equity scheme, whether it's now providing 50,000 or 70,000 grant aid to actually get vacant or derelict properties back into use. Many of these measures, by the way, are ones that your party voted against, Deputy, as indeed other opposition parties have. But I can tell you this government is absolutely focused on trying to help people to own their own homes, to focus on delivering about 5,500 affordable homes this year, which is significantly more than has been provided for a very, very long time. And of course, we will deliver in and around 12,000 social homes as well this year, significantly more than anything we've seen since the 1970s. And the total housing budget will be about €4.5 billion, which is more than double what it was a few years ago. So we do recognise that we continue to have a housing crisis in Ireland. There are many households under pressure, but the government will continue to respond by delivering more in terms of supply. Housing supply increased last year by 45% on the previous year. 30,000 new homes delivered, and we will surpass the target set for this year also, I believe, before the end of the year. That being said, there's still an awful lot more to do, and we will continue to focus as our #1 priority in terms of domestic policy and response in government to try and support people who are under pressure for housing reasons, whether it's finding a first home, whether it's accessing social housing, affordable housing, or indeed trying to get out of the nightmare of homelessness, which the government also will support families on.
Lou McDonald.
Minister, your rhetoric and your bluff on the issue of housing convinces precisely nobody. And the idea that you would rate your performance on housing as a reflection of housing as your #1 priority is truly terrifying. If that's your idea of your best shot at sorting out a crisis that has now been with us for many, many years, your targets are wrong to begin with. They're insufficient. You don't meet those targets. You have no sense or capacity to grasp the scale of this crisis and the pace at which we need a response. That's the truth. And this crisis has now touched every corner, every aspect, every class, every part of Irish society. And people are suffering now. So your glib answer that you're doing enough and it was better than last year or the year before that when the lot of you were still making a hames of it then convinces absolutely nobody. On the issue of mortgage interest relief, of course it has to be targeted. The scheme has to be time-bound. We've had 10 individual hikes in ECB interest rates.
Thank you, Deputy.
I think you need to tell people now that you will intervene. I think if you find our scheme not to your liking, set out then what your scheme will look like to give mortgage holders a break.